everyone, so moving on to video 2, as I was saying in my previous video, it does annoy me when people sometimes say when sometimes people kind of diss what an autistic person says on the pretext that they're thinking in black and white terms and they need to think more in shades of grey, when sometimes the autistic person is simply saying what is true for them or what they as a free agent, as a human being with intelligence, has basically figured out for themselves, and sometimes their diagnosis is then used against them as though their autism is kind of clouding their judgment or something, when that's not always the case, and how frustrating that can be, particularly when you then have to explain yourself and you feel you're not being taken seriously, particularly when your disability isn't always evident or extremely as obvious, like because I could talk really well and because I do have a degree, and because verbally I'm quite intelligent, people then assume that I can have a career, or that that's something that will be easy for me, or they're trying to be nice, but they say things like, oh, you've got so much to give to society, like you're so motivated, you're so determined, you have all these things, you would make a really good teacher or something. And in an ideal world, without all of my problems, yeah, maybe so, but that's not taking into account all of my difficulties, my executive functioning impairments, my processing speed problems, my severe anxiety, just the fact that day-to-day living and doing really simple tasks uses up so much spoons or energy units. That is real effort just to get through the day at times. And I do that because I'm motivated and determined, and and I want to try my hardest, and I don't like giving up, and that's just part of who I am. But obviously, there are limits to that, and realistically, having a career or doing those things that some people seem to think is possible for me would just break me, and I wouldn't be able to do it anyway, because I don't have the executive functioning skills to do all the adulting on top of that. Like, if someone was doing all the cooking and cleaning and everything else for me, and that's the only thing I was doing, and I was getting loads and loads and loads of support, like the amount of support like a child might need, then yeah, maybe, but that's not the world we live in. So yeah. The other thing I want to talk about on a different subject is in connection with what I was talking about in a previous video, actually, about use by dates and the ambiguity connected with use by dates and things like that. And how I just wanted to clarify a few things, by the way, because sometimes people think that because I have anxiety and issues around like needing to follow the rules, that therefore it's to do with knowledge, or that I don't have enough knowledge. So they'll say things like, "You do realise, don't you, that it's put on that they always leave a window whereby food isn't going to go off just because, say, it's an hour after it's use by date or something." Now I know that. No amount of feeding me with knowledge is going to change my anxiety, because I'm an intelligent person, or at least I think I'm reasonably intelligent. I have the knowledge, the understanding, the cognitive awareness, if you like, of those matters. It's got nothing to do with awareness or understanding or lack of knowledge. It's anxiety and OCD. They're not rational. So you might know things, okay? You might know things. If it was a question and answer thing, and you were like doing a test, and you were to I would be able to give the factual answers. I'll be able to say, no, it probably won't go off after it's used by date. I'll be able to explain why, and I'll get top marks. But behaviour isn't always rational, and I like to follow the rules, and that's because I'm autistic. Now, obviously, autism affects people differently, and some autistic people won't have such a problem with this. Some autistic people might be fine having aftergo use by date. But for me, the way autism affects me is that I can't do that, because I like to follow the rules. Rules make me feel safe. Again, sometimes people will be rather derogatory and say, "Oh, you're being black and white. You need to see in shades of grey," as though that could come out change how I think. But you can't cure autism, that's the thing. Autism is beyond black and white in that respect, which is why I'm not really that keen on it. I don't really like it when people like try and say that you're thinking black and white terms as though somehow they think they can fix you, Because I would say that talking about black and white is something where the person is not aware, or they need to be educated. Like some people have extremely black and white views about politics, for example, and it's not because they've got a neurological problem. They simply think in black and white terms for whatever reason, and maybe we can try and get them to think a bit more in shades of grey. But I don't think accusing autistics of thinking black and white is actually helpful, because in autism, it's not a choice. You can't train someone with autism to think differently. The way their brain is fixed is the way it is. And so I sort of think maybe we need to think in terms of different language, and maybe use of the term black and white could be a bit condescending and can imply that the autistic person doesn't have the ability to see shades of grey, but it's not like that. I can see shades of grey, it's just that my neurology makes me want to stick to certain rules, and that's not a choice, and it's not because I don't have the knowledge or awareness. I can philosophise on shades of grey, perfectly fine, but when it comes to my need to follow the rules, that's not something I can control. That's in my brain. And actually, in some areas of life, I can be incredibly, I can see the nuance and things like that, far more than some neurotypicals, in fact. Like with gender, for example. I don't tend to stereotype, like many neurotypicals stereotype people. That's black and white, if you ask me. So yeah. But anyway, talking about sorry, I'm going a bit on a tangent, but talking about the sort of whole use by date thing, something that does confuse me and causes me some degree of, what's the word? Well, it confuses me, is best before the dates. Okay, so obviously I know what a best before by date is. I know that a best before by date means that you can eat the food safely after the date. It's not going to make you sick. Best before by date is simply it's guidance. So it refers to foods that generally aren't perishable. And obviously will go off eventually, but they have very clear signs when you shouldn't eat them, like mould and things like that, and they don't contact. Crucially, they're not going to grow loads of harmful bacteria in a short space of time. They're not like highly perishable, and they have clear signs when they're gone off, and you can safely consume them after the date, as long as they don't have mould in them and things like that. So that's my knowledge. But what confuses me, right, is that I got some tortilla wraps, okay? Now they have best before by dates on them. You don't put them in a fridge or anything. You store them in a cupboard, although you are supposed to eat them very soon after opening. So I put mine in the freezer because they're vacuum packed. I guess because they must have quite a high moisture content, but they are vacuum packed. So once they've been opened, you have to sort of eat them quite quickly. But they're not something that you put in the fridge. And it's got best before by date. But what confuses me is that it says on the back, it says do not exceed the best before by date. Now I'm thinking, but it's a best before by date. Surely that should be a use by date then? Now that is confusing. If someone understands why they do that, let me know, because that is really confusing. My guess is they don't put use by dates on it because it's not something you put in the fridge, maybe. But still, that is confusing, because it says do not exceed the best before by date, and in my mind that should be a use by date, so that is confusing. The other thing that confuses me about food labelling is sometimes you buy, say, a pot of hummus, right, from one supermarket. It says use within 3 days of opening. You then go and buy a pot of hummus from another supermarket. I think it is made, packaged in the same way. I'm not aware of any differences in packaging or anything that would make the ingredients go off faster. And it will say use within 2 days of opening. So that's rather confusing and strange. My guess is the one that says use within 3 days is more accurate, and that therefore you could safely use the one that says use within 2 days within 3 days. But it doesn't make sense. And obviously the fact I need to follow the rules, not black and white thinking, it's something I can't control, it's my autism. And I do know, logically, that is not going to make me ill if I were to eat it in 3 days. Again, autism is not something I can control. I will follow the rules, so I will still have to have it in 2 days. But again, let me know what you think, because that is really strange. Okay, so thank you for watching.